Hello, glad you can join us. Here's what's happening. The salary spikes outpacing the rate of inflation.
Wages are rising. They also see prices rising.
The sector is getting the boost in bucks and what it means.
Iran's nuclear capabilities were indeed destroyed.
Dueling claims over the status of Iran's nuclear program.
The potential for bad actors to use this technology is going up.
Plus dialing into the surge in scams using AI.
CTV National News with Sandy Ronaldo.
Well, if you work in the information, cultural, finance, and real estate sectors, you'll be happy to know that your salaries are among the professions outpacing inflation, and that's a good thing, considering all our economic concerns. On average, wages increased 4.4% from April last year to April this year, while inflation went up just 1.7% over the same period. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson takes a deeper dive and tackles the implications. Hi, Andrew.
Sandy, ever since the pandemic led to skyrocketing inflation, many Canadians have felt like they're drowning, not getting ahead. But the numbers have been turning around. New average wages in a variety of industries were released today by Statistics Canada. As you mentioned, Sandy, pay overall is up more than 4%. But let's take a closer look. If you work in information and culture, it's an industry that's paying people 10% more than last year. These are jobs related to the movie industry, telecommunications, publishing, and content providing. Wages in real estate and rentals are up close to 10%. Finance and insurance wages rose 8%. Education is paying 7% more, and so is forestry and logging. At the other end of the spectrum, the average wage for people who work in utilities, think electric, gas, and water, is down close to 3%. Wages in retail down a bit as well, and in wholesale. The arts, entertainment, and recreation sector also didn't keep pace with inflation. Despite Canadians on the whole making more, one economist explains why right now, for you, it may not feel like it.
The general person who may have seen reasonable wage gains since 2023, say, doesn't take that and compare it against the fact that coffee's $20 and it used to be $10 for a package. They don't compare it to the fact that butter is more expensive and beef is a lot more expensive. These are the types of calculations that economists do. We talk about real wages and whether you're gaining against inflation, but folks are upset.
He also points out this trajectory of rising wages and economic growth over the past year or two is now in serious danger thanks to the Trump and tariff factor, and the near future is now very much a question mark.
Okay.
Sandy.
Andrew, thank you. Now, what's also in question is finding a family doctor if you're a senior, and in Canada, that makes you 65 and older. And new findings reveal you're not just having a hard time accessing primary care, but also finding someone to talk to if the need arises. CTV's Scott Hurst now on why this is happening and why it's not an easy fix. Scott.
Sandy, Canada's healthcare system is under significant strain, in part due to an aging population, and getting access to primary care is increasingly more difficult.
I'm like a lot of people that my family has a history of cancer in my situation, but there are people that I know that have family histories of other conditions you should be concerned about, and you don't have a chance to get a checkup.
Canada is falling behind some international partners. About 8% of Canadians 65 and up don't have access to a primary care provider. That's about 600,000 people, meaning more seniors are going without care compared to those in the US, UK, France, and Germany, to name a few. The report published by the Canadian Institute for Health Information also notes older Canadians are struggling to access mental health care when they need it.
Mental health care is really important for older adults. We found in our survey in 2024 that 1 in 4 older adults reported feeling isolated at least some of the time.
The report also shows timely access to primary care has been getting worse. Only about a quarter of seniors who have access to care can even get an appointment the same day or next. That number was much higher than in a previous survey less than a decade ago. Now, improving access is not an easy fix. Canada's population is rapidly aging and people are living longer. According to Stats Canada, in 2023, seniors made up less than 1/5 of the population. By 2030, that number will swell to a quarter. Sandy.
Okay, Scott Hurst, thank you. Today we learned that a Canadian citizen has died while in custody of ICE. That's the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. 49-year-old Johnny Noviello was found unresponsive on Monday at a detention facility in Miami. He was arrested in May and was set to be deported due to earlier convictions on drug charges. His death is under investigation. Well, a new assessment of the condition of Iran's nuclear facilities was made public. On the same day, Iran's supreme leader warned the U.S. against any future attacks. Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei delivered his first public comments since the ceasefire was declared with Israel after 12 days of war. The 86-year-old released a recorded message saying the U.S. had exaggerated the impact of strikes on the facilities. A very different take at the Pentagon today.
There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second. Because of decisive military action, President Trump created the conditions to end the war. Decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities.
The U.S. military also shared a test video showing what it looks like when a bunker-busting bomb hits a cave. This is the same type of weapon used in the strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, which Defense Secretary Hegseth claims set back the program by years and not months, as initially suggested by a leaked U.S. intelligence report. Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says the country's war with Iran presents opportunities for peace in Gaza. Some Palestinians are still desperately trying to escape the conflict, including students with full scholarships to Canadian universities. CTV's Heather Wright spoke to one of them.
Twisted metal and debris. This is what it looks like in Gaza City after an Israeli airstrike this morning. It's near where 19-year-old Tawfiq Abed lives in a small room with nearly a dozen other people.
I'm displaced. My house is in a dangerous area.
Abed dreams of being an engineer and has been offered a full scholarship to the University of Alberta. Trouble is, he's applied for a student visa but has received no response from the Canadian government.
I'm sorry to lose such an opportunity. Especially that is Canada. That's my dream. That's what I'm looking for is coming through.
Abed is not the only one. According to a group of Canadian professors, there are roughly 70 Palestinian students stuck waiting. They are urging the government to move more quickly to help these students come here to study.
Germany's able to do it. France has been able to do it. They provided safe passage for students. They've expedited visas. It is punitive, and there's no reason why we can't do the same in Canada.
Part of the challenge for the students still in Gaza is providing biometrics, such as fingerprints and a photo. But others say they submitted their completed applications over a year ago and have heard nothing.
We're not asking for them to skip the line. We're not asking for shortcuts. We're just asking for these students to be treated fairly so that they can come to Canada and study here in the great research programs that we have here.
CTV News has reached out to the Ministry of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship multiple times. They have not yet responded to our questions about why it is taking so long to process these applications. Sandy.
All right, Heather, thank you. Some international students caught in the legal battle between the Trump administration and Harvard University may be coming to Canada. A partnership between the Monk School at the University of Toronto and the Harvard Kennedy School will help students who can't re-enter the United States because of visa restrictions complete their programs. Donald Trump has tried to cut off Harvard's enrollment of international students after the Ivy League school refused to accept policy changes from the White House. Trump says a deal with Harvard could come soon. Well, we have all heard the warnings about bad players using artificial intelligence for deceptive reasons. Just yesterday, police in Ontario were alerting us to AI-generated voice messages impersonating officials and public figures. It comes as Canada's new AI minister announces federal funding to help business integrate the technology. CTV's John Venavali Rao was at the Toronto Board of Trade listening in. John?
Sandy, lots of excitement about that announcement from the local business community. The AI minister, Evan Solomon, announcing $2.5 million that'll go to the board so it can help speed up the use of artificial intelligence in business, something Canadians are seeing more of in the workplace. The goal is to boost productivity, not just here, but across the country.
In a sense, it's about the economy of the future, and it's making sure that small and medium-sized businesses get access and mentorship and training in how to use AI in a responsible, productive way.
Now, Solomon was also scheduled to meet with Jeffrey Hinton today, the so-called godfather of AI, who's raised concerns about how fast the technology is developing. He's pushing for more government regulation, warning about the risks of AI, and we had another reminder of that this week. Both the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre and the Centre for Cybersecurity saying there's been a spike in bad actors using AI to scam people, including voice cloning, where criminals are using AI-generated voice messages and text to impersonate senior officials and prominent public figures to swipe money and information.
One instance, the fraudulent signal message was appearing to come from a U.S. official and requested a large transfer of money under the guise of a tariff-related emergency.
Apparently, business executives and senior public officials were the target of the scam. But the Anti-Fraud Center says because AI video and audio is so good now, everyone really needs to be on guard. And saying if you get an urgent request, especially for money, try to verify the person is who they say they are by doing things like calling them back at a number you trust. Sandy.
Okay, that's good information, John. Thank you. Now, the Senate has passed the Liberal government's nation-building projects bill, known as Bill C-5. It allows the government to fast-track the approval process. The government says it will help the economy during the trade war with the United States. Some Indigenous groups have opposed the legislation. An Ontario community is on edge after a young girl was the victim of a mysterious suspected animal attack.
A little girl has been harmed in the way she was. It really was, it was a shock to everybody.
When are we going to be safe again to allow our children out?
The 8-year-old child went missing for hours on Monday evening in the town of Quadville in the Ottawa Valley. She was found by a search party just after midnight and taken to hospital with serious injuries. It is still not known what animal attacked her. Residents have been advised to keep their children indoors.
Hey.
And a frightening close encounter with wildlife in Whistler, British Columbia, has forced some trails to close. There have been multiple reports of aggressive cougars. Hikers say they've been stalked and chased. So far, no injuries. Trail closures are in the Blackcomb Mountain area. Coming up after the break, a potentially dangerous cycle.
Just doing a load of laundry could have killed everyone.
A warning over washing machines catching fire, plus a royal return to PEI. A warning now for homeowners. Ontario's fire marshal has been investigating more than 600 fires over 5 years that involve washers and dryers. Pat Foran puts a face to the numbers with two families who shared their frightening stories with CTV News.
We could have all died.
Chandra Lake of Brampton says it was last fall when her 3-year-old washing machine caught on fire. Her daughter had been doing laundry and was about to leave the house to buy groceries when she noticed smoke coming from the basement. The family called 911 and firefighters were able to extinguish the blaze.
They determined that the drum might have seized and the motor was running and the friction might have caused the fire.
For Lake's family, it was a traumatic experience.
Just doing a load of laundry could have killed everyone in the house.
Before the load was finished, it essentially burst into flames.
Dominic Tetro of Cambridge says his 4-year-old washing machine caught on fire in April. Luckily, his family had 2 fire extinguishers and were able to put out the blaze. He says it's a lesson to never leave your washer or dryer operating unattended.
We're never going to leave laundry alone again.
It is uncommon, although washing machines can catch on fire. They could happen.
According to Ontario's Fire Marshal's Office, between the years of 2019 to 2023, there have been 22 washing machine fires and 648 dryer fires in the province. To avoid fires in the laundry room, check the washer and dryer cords for damage. Outlets should have ground fault circuit interrupters. Inspect and clean the lint screen after each load. Check the outdoor vent to ensure it's unobstructed, and always turn the washer and dryer off if you leave home or go to bed.
We want to make sure that we're installing our smoke alarms, testing them monthly with our families, and practicing a home fire escape plan with our families as well.
Both washing machines were LG models, but there's no indication the fires were connected, and LG is investigating. Both families still want answers, but after contacting CTV News, LG gave Tetro and Lake new washing machines.
Thank you, CTV. We appreciate the help.
I am so glad I got in touch with CTV News. I cannot thank you enough for investigating this issue for us.
Pat Foran, CTV News.
All right, on the legal front, billionaire businessman Frank Stronic will face a judge alone, not a jury, when he stands trial in his sexual assault case in Toronto next year. Stronic's defense lawyer confirmed the 92-year-old has pleaded not guilty to the charges he faces in Toronto. Stronic founded auto parts giant Magna and is charged with 18 counts of sexual assault and indecent assault, some which date back decades and involve 13 complainants. Closing arguments are taking place today in the sex trafficking trial of Sean Diddy Combs, and the jury's verdict will follow.
I'm guessing this is going to take at least 3 or 4 days. It's not going to be a quick verdict, I don't think.
Prosecutors call him the leader of a criminal enterprise, arguing that Combs' conduct amounted to sex trafficking because he used force, fraud, and threats to compel former girlfriends to participate in sex acts, sometimes with male escorts who were paid. Combs pleaded not guilty to those charges, as well as racketeering, conspiracy. And a who's who of A-listers continues to arrive in Venice to watch Amazon billionaire Jeff Bezos say "I do" to journalist Lauren Sanchez. The wedding has drawn protests with claims the 3-day event is exploiting the UNESCO heritage site. Among the more than 200 high-profile guests, celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Usher, Bill Gates, Tom Brady, Oprah Winfrey, Kylie Jenner, the Queen of Jordan. The so-called wedding of the century is estimated to cost more than $50 million. Still ahead, License to Thrill. The Canadian set to direct the next James Bond film. Canadian director extraordinaire Denis Villeneuve, whose films have grossed more than $1.8 billion and include hits like Blade Runner and the Dune series, can now add James Bond to his credits. He's been pegged to direct the next Bond film. Film critic Richard Krause, is with us now. I couldn't resist. Sorry, Richard. Okay, Villeneuve is no slouch. So what makes him, I guess, uniquely suited to take over certainly one of the greatest franchises of all time?
Well, he's an expert filmmaker. That's, I think, first and foremost. But he also has that unique ability to be able to blend action in movies like Sicario and certainly in the Dune films on a very big level, make that compelling. He knows how to shoot it. He knows how to implement that into the story. But he also, through his work in films like Prisoners, understands the morally nuanced characters, let's say, that he might have to deal with in the James Bond world. And he knows how to knit all that together to create one complete package. So as far as, big shot, big name directors working out there today, I think he's an ideal choice for this.
Okay, and big name stars have played James Bond. There have been 7, from Sean Connery to Pierce Brosnan to Daniel Craig, who is the last Bond. Any idea yet who's been pegged to portray Bond in that movie, the next one?
It is all conjecture right now. There are 100 names out there. Aaron Taylor Johnson, who you can see this weekend in 28 Years Later playing in theaters. He's one of the names. Tom Hiddleston's name has come up. Idris Elba's name has come up. It goes on and on. There's a list as long as your arm. What I think that they will do is what they did with Timothy Dalton. It's what they did with Daniel Craig, is they chose a relative unknown and put him into that role. I think what they want you to see is James Bond, not the larger-than-life actor that might be playing James Bond. They want you to actually believe the character is James Bond. And the best way to do that is to find someone who you're not particularly familiar with.
Okay, Richard, looking forward to learning who it is and seeing that movie. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sandy.
All right, well, Canada made another impression on the basketball world last night, with Will Riley being selected by the Washington Wizards in the first round of the NBA draft.
Will Riley from Kitchener, Canada, and the University of Illinois.
I know he appreciated all the support, and we just want to thank everyone, family and friends, and the K-Dub area for sure.
Those are Riley's proud parents on their way to see their son's new home in America's capital. Riley was the 21st overall selection. After the break, a prince on the island. PEI drums up a very royal welcome. There's a real Prince Edward visiting Prince Edward Island today, also known as the Duke of Edinburgh. The King's younger brother is there to attend celebrations marking a very special anniversary and much more. CTV's Maria Saru spent the day in royal company. Maria, what can you share with us?
Sandy, I'm at Abegwit First Nation, where Prince Edward's first public meeting took place. He's here to mark a military milestone, but his presence also helps mend old wounds, says the community's chief.
It's education through conversation, education through awareness, and it's also education through responsibility.
Chief Roderick Gould Jr. and other Mi'kmaq members welcomed the Duke of Edinburgh to their cultural grounds. He participated in a drum circle with a lighthearted warning from the chief not to mess it up. Prince Edward also met with families, learning a little about each person he shook hands with.
I think that the royal visit here shows the people in the community that you are a productive part of society, recognized by someone as prestigious as the Duke.
The PEI regiment has spent the last 2.5 years planning the royal visit to mark its 150th anniversary.
It's a mix of nervousness and excitement. It's an opportunity for our newer soldiers to meet our Colonel-in-Chief for the first time, and those of us in the old guard, quote-unquote old guard, get a chance to see him again.
Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Michaud was a young captain when Prince Edward was last in town 10 years ago. Today, he's the commanding officer of the regiment.
It's actually fairly personal being able to do that this time around, so just a huge honor and a privilege.
He says as Colonel-in-Chief, Prince Edward's role is honorary, but it helps maintain Canada's ties to the royal family, honoring decades of tradition and transformation. And with more events planned, conversations around leadership and legacy are bound to continue. Sandy?
All right, Maria, thank you. And thank you for sharing your time with us. I'm Sandy Ronaldo. Omar is here later tonight with CTV National News, and Heather will be here tomorrow. But first, here comes your local CTV News.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.